They wanted me early to talk family. Sophie got to me first. Grandpa, after the guests go, they're going to fix your money problem. Mom's words, not yours. Laughter swelled in the living room. My pulse didn't. They went to the bank Tuesday. The papers make it easy. I straightened my tie, thanked everyone, and excused myself. Tomorrow, they'd meet the part of me they forgot. They rehearsed kindness. My granddaughter ended the play with one line. "Grandpa, they're going to make you sign things after the party." Her parents floated room to room, topping off wine and compliments. Sophie's fingers were cold in mine. "Mom says once you sign, it's all theirs." I slipped out early. Let them prepare an ambush. I'd already drawn the map. Streamers hissed in the air conditioning. A balloon skated along the ceiling and squeaked, a rubbery squeal that set my teeth on edge. From the living room came a burst of laughter. Kevin's, too loud, and Megan's, tuned to whatever pitch gets people to nod. Sophie's paper crown had slipped behind one ear. She looked up at me with eyes that were too old for 8. "Bank papers?" I asked, my voice almost nothing. Her nod was small and terrified. "They went Tuesday," she breathed. "They said it makes everything legal." There it was, the line that pulled the curtain. I wrapped her fingers in both of mine, warming them with a grandfather's promise and a businessman's resolve. "You did the right thing," I said, and because she needed something to hold, I gave her the simplest truth I had. "I love you."
"That won't change when people get mad." She blinked. The crown wobbled. Somewhere, a candle hissed itself out on the cake. I straightened. My face found its party smile, the one that says, "Thank you for the canopies, and isn't this banner lovely?" "We go back in," I told her softly. "You open presents. I drink polite wine. We let the actors finish the scene." Her hand squeezed once, brave. I led her into the living room, past the gift table and the tidy stacks of cards, past Megan's tray of toothpicked cheese, past Kevin's watch check he tried to hide. He beamed when he saw us. He always did, like a full audience. "Everything okay, Dad?" he called. "Perfect," I said, and meant it in a way he didn't understand. I set my glass on a coaster, admired the balloons, asked a neighbor about her hydrangeas. On the coffee table, a pen lay beside a pile of glossy envelopes, the kind that swallow signatures and spit out consequences. I noted the brand, the placement, the eagerness in Megan's eyes when she glanced that way. Let them set their stage. Let them believe the mark is ready.
But before the curtain falls, we rewind back to 7 o'clock this morning to the phone call that tilted the day. 7 o'clock found me in the kitchen with a mug breathing steam and the newspaper still folded to yesterday. The fridge hummed. Sunlight came in through the blinds in narrow bars, striping Ellen's photo on the wall. The phone lit up. Kevin. He doesn't call early. Not for birthdays, not for anything. "Dad, hey, quick one." His voice carried a tightness I knew from years of patching his messes, like a belt pulled one notch too far. "What's up, son?" He cleared his throat. "We really want you at Sophie's party. Actually, could you come a little ahead of time? Megan and I hope to talk about some family things." Family things. The chair creaked as I sat. "You can say them now." "In person is better." Muffled, away from the receiver, Megan said something sharp and fast. He came back, too cheerful. She asked me to make sure you're coming. We want to make sure everyone's taken care of." There it was, the phrase people use when they're about to put their hand in your pocket and call it caregiving. "I'll be there," I said. "What time?" 1:30, party starts at 2. He tried a laugh that didn't fit his mouth. "Keep an open mind, okay?" We hung up. I watched steam unwind from the coffee and thought about how many times I'd unknotted that boy's life. On the fridge, a crayon river ran under a crooked bridge Sophie's drawing from our last walk by the Scioto. In purple she'd written, "Best day with Grandpa." Ellen's voice, steady as always, came back as if she were standing by the sink. "Watch Kevin, not because he's cruel, but because he's weak. Weak attracts pressure." I set the mug down and opened the closet. My hand skimmed shirts until I found one Ellen had always called my honest blue. In the mirror, I saw a man who'd built things that didn't fall down because he checked foundations twice. Keys, wallet, list for gifts. I slid the list into my pocket and took another look around the kitchen. The tidy counters Megan once suggested were too much for a man alone. Maybe that was the first probe. "All right," I told the empty house, "we'll go see the show." I locked the door behind me and headed for the car. Before I dealt with smiles and speeches, I'd stop at Easton Town Center. Sophie deserved a present. I deserved answers. Easton wakes early on Saturdays. Families drifted under the glass canopies with coffee cups and strollers, and a saxophonist worked through scales near the fountain. I parked by the north entrance and went in with a short list and a longer suspicion. Sophie loves buildings. In the toy store, I found a kit with a skyline, clean lines, smart instructions, the kind of challenge that makes a kid's eyes narrow in concentration. "Gift wrap?" the clerk asked. "Please," I said, thinking about how Sophie reads diagrams like stories. The bike shop was next. A matte blue junior frame, light enough for a hill on Neal Avenue, brakes she could trust, reflective tape for evenings when fireflies come out over the Scioto. The salesman held the door while I loaded the box. "Birthday?" he asked. "The best kind," I said. Back in the lot, a familiar voice. "Mr. Cole." Mr. Patel waved a bookstore bag. "We've shared a sidewalk and small talk for years." He tapped his watch. "You're up early too." "Birthday prep," I said. "You?" "Beat the crowds," he smiled. "Oh, speaking of crowds, I saw Kevin and Megan downtown Tuesday. First Federal Bank. Big stack of papers."
They looked serious. He chuckled like it was nothing. Refinancing? Young people and their paperwork. Tuesday. Bank. Papers. I let the words settle like bolts tightening on a beam. "Could be," I said lightly. "They've been planning a lot lately." We chatted a minute about paperbacks and parking, then I wished him a good weekend and crossed to the florist. The cooler breathed out green air. "White roses," I told the florist, "a dozen." She trimmed stems with a confident snip and wrapped them in crisp paper. "Special day?" "For my granddaughter," I said, "flowers for her mother." The bundle cooled my palm. In the reflection of the florist's window, I looked like any other grandfather doing what grandfathers do, spoiling a child with time and things that roll. But the reflection didn't show the clock I'd started in my head. I set the roses gently in the front seat, gifts in the back, doubt riding shotgun. The path from family talk to sign here is short when someone is in a hurry. If there were papers, they needed my signature. If they needed my signature, they needed me comfortable. I pulled onto Morse Road toward Clintonville. Let them get their stage ready. I would arrive on time, take my seat, and watch who cues whom. Turn signal ticking, I eased onto Morse and let the city slide by in spring colors lawns just past winter, forsythia shouting yellow, a sky the pale blue of plans not yet tested. The roses rode shotgun. The bike box grumbled softly in the back. Somewhere between a red light and the next green, I counted not miles but patterns. 247 times I had said yes. Transmission repairs that became full engine jobs, grocery money that became a budget line, tuition checks written with a pen that felt heavier each month. Each request arrived wrapped in, "We hate to ask," and left with, "You're a lifesaver." It took 247 favors to teach me the shape of the word no. My hands knew the wheel the way they used to know a framing square. Feel the true line, correct before the sag shows. Ellen used to call it my second sight. "You don't read people, Ray," she'd tease. "You read pressure." Pressure was everywhere today, on Kevin's voice, in Megan's smile, in Mr. Patel's harmless story about Tuesday on Gay Street. I rehearsed nothing. That was their department. Mine was measurement. How close does Megan stand when she wants a signature? Who interrupts when money comes up? Where do they place a pen? A negotiator doesn't argue in the hallway. He collects tells, then controls the room. I passed the turn for High Street and cut toward Clintonville, letting the tires hum the last of my irritation into the pavement. Boundaries, I reminded myself, are not anger. They are architecture. You set the load-bearing walls first, or the rest is decoration. At a stop sign, I checked the mirror. The man who looked back was older than the one in my memory, and steadier too. I tried on the face I'd wear for the afternoon, the slight stoop, the slow nod, the easy smile that says tired but grateful. Let them think I'm soft around the edges. Soft things absorb impact. They also spring back. The neighborhood narrowed into porches and flags. Balloons bobbed above a mailbox, and somewhere a child shrieked with the simple joy of being 8. I pulled to the curb and killed the engine. The house was dressed for a party, paper garlands in the window, a banner scalloped and precise. Through the door came laughter, bright and a little brittle. I lifted the roses, squared my shoulders just enough, and reached for the bell. Time to take my seat and see who cues whom.
Megan opened the door like a game show reveal. "Ray, you look wonderful," she sang, palms warm on my forearm, a beat too long. The house wore celebration banners scalloped straight, balloons anchored by color, music turned to a volume that fills silence before thoughts can form. "Happy to be here," I said, setting the roses in her hands. Her smile lifted, then tightened a millimeter when she clocked the brand on the florist's paper. Calculation is a muscle. Hers was fit. Kevin swept in with a clap to my shoulder. "There he is, my dad, the legend!" He said it like a line he'd practiced at red lights. "Folks, this is the man who taught me everything about building things that last." A couple from the block chuckled politely. Kevin's eyes flicked down and right after he finished. Classic tells don't retire. I let the room wash over me. The coffee table had been cleared to a shine. Napkins folded like little sails. On a sideboard, a neat stack of envelopes waited beside a capped pen laid just so, a still life of intentions. Megan drifted in their orbit, keeping the stack within her peripheral vision as if proximity might speed the clock. "Raymond." Miss Green eased to my side, clutching a plate of strawberries. "Your granddaughter is an old soul. She asked me last week if grown-ups ever disagree about important things. Sweet thing, worrying over big ideas." She tilted her head toward Sophie, who sat cross-legged with a friend, smiling the smile you learn for other people's comfort. "She's thoughtful," I said. We both watched Sophie a moment longer than casual. Megan reappeared with a glass before mine was half empty. "Hydrate, Ray," she teased. "We want you comfortable." Her gaze darted to Kevin, then to the sideboard. A quick nod passed between them like a secret handshake for the anxious. Whenever conversation drifted near money, mortgages, a guest's new job, Kevin rerouted it with bright anecdotes. "Dad's the best fisherman on the Scioto," he announced. "He can read a current like a map." People laughed. His watch vibrated. He checked it, then pretended he hadn't. I played my part, asked about lawns, admired a handmade banner, listened to a neighbor describe a home project gone wrong. Each time I offered a practical fix, Megan pivoted the topic back to comfort, to snacks, to anything other than plans. Across the room, Sophie looked up, found me, held my eyes for a second, then looked toward the hallway where family photos marched in neat frames. The message was quiet and clear. I excused myself with a hand to my temple and drifted toward the photos. The hallways smelled faintly of candle smoke and lemon polish. Family photos marched along the wall, school pictures, a wedding smile, a baby in a knit hat. Music and laughter floated from the living room like a soundtrack piped in from another house. Sophie slipped to my side, crown askew, cheeks flushed from trying to look happy too long. Her hand found mine. Cold, small, certain. "Grandpa," she breathed, eyes on a photo of herself as a toddler. "After the guests leave, they're going to make you sign things." "What things?" I asked, barely moving my lips. "Papers from the bank. They went on Tuesday. Mom said once you sign, it's all theirs." The last 2 words came out like she'd practiced them and hated every syllable. "She told Dad it will be legal." A cheer rose from the living room. Someone had told a joke. The sound made the hallway feel narrower. I crouched so we were eye to eye. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "You were brave." Her mouth wobbled. "Please don't be mad at them at the party." "I won't make a scene," I said. "I won't give them the scene they rehearsed either." She swallowed. "Will you still love me if they get mad?" My chest tightened. "There's nothing you could do that would change that," I said. "Not ever." We stayed like that for a beat, the crowd's noise, the quiet of the frames, her pulse fluttering against my fingers. Then I gave her a job. We go back in. You open presents. You laugh at the right places. If anybody asks, I'm a little tired. That is all. She nodded, a soldier taking orders. Okay. I stood, smoothed my jacket, and let my face find the bland expression adults call fine. We stepped into the living room together. Megan materialized with a sip-ready glass and the exact concern the moment required.
"Ray, you look pale. Need water? Sit down?" "Just a headache," I said, touching my temple. "I'll rest a bit." Gifts rustled. Sophie played her part. Kevin told another story about me that didn't belong to him. I checked my watch, not to hurry time, but to mark it. 10 minutes later, I set the untouched glass on a coaster, thanked the hosts, and apologized to a half-circle of neighbors. "I'm not myself today. I'm going to lie down at home." Hands squeezed my shoulder. Polite concern rippled. At the door, Megan tried to recalibrate. "Tomorrow, then. We can chat." "Tomorrow," I agreed, and stepped into the cooler air. The door closed behind me with the soft click of a safe latch. I walked to my car, already unlocking a different door in my mind, the one behind Ellen's picture. The house took a different breath when I closed the door behind me. Quieter, yes, but purposeful, like a workshop after the whistle. I went straight to the study. Ellen's portrait watched from above the credenza, the soft smile she never wasted. I touched the frame, slid it aside, and spun the dial on the safe by muscle memory. The tumblers fell in line like men I used to pay on Fridays. Steel and paper smell the same after a while, like old work. I lifted ledgers onto the desk, file tabs marching by year. Statements, deeds, insurance, tax returns, the paper skeleton of a life built by showing up. I stacked what mattered. Checking, brokerage, CDs, the file for the 3 rentals, the envelope labeled Education S. I hadn't filled that one in a long time. That would change. Numbers don't lie, but they do tell stories. Liquid a shade over 2.3. 3 properties with clean deeds and predictable rent. And then the part I'd been pretending was generosity rather than drift. 247 payments to Kevin and Megan. I counted them out loud, page after page. Groceries, tires, emergency dental, tuition, mortgage shortfalls. I drew a line across the legal pad and totaled it. 70,000 and change. Not theft, not then, but training. I saw the shape of it now. Requests small enough to be reasonable, frequent enough to be normal, elastic enough to grow. A man can drown in teaspoons. Outside, wind moved through the maple, a sound like quiet applause or warning. I flipped to the folder with my will. Standard, written when I still believed help would teach independence. I laid a blank yellow sheet over it and wrote in block letters, Sophie Educational Trust. Under that, bullet points. College, grad school, seed for business, medical if needed. Locked until 21, trustee independent. Not a weapon, a promise. I turned Ellen's photo toward me and spoke to the room. I will not sign away what we built. I will not fund their weakness. I will fund her future. The clock in the hall marked the top of the hour. I organized evidence the same way I used to lay out bids, clean stacks, highlighted lines, sticky flags like trail markers. A file for signatures I would not give. A separate file for signatures I would. The floorboard on the porch creaked, distinct, familiar. Heavy boots, a patient pause. Mr. Whitaker never knocked hard. He didn't have to. I knew him by the second creak. I opened the door to a man in a faded navy cap with a steel thermos and eyes that measured weather and people with the same care. "You left a party early," he said by way of greeting. "Either the cake was lousy or the company was." "Company," I said, and stepped aside. We sat on the porch where the maple spread shade like a good wingman. He poured coffee into the thermos cap and pushed it over without asking. "Seen a lot of kitchen table ambushes," he said. "They call it helping Dad. Looks the same, though papers arrive when the house is tired and someone says, 'Sign here,' so no one has to worry." "Power of attorney?" I asked. He nodded. "Or worse, guardianship. That one's a freight train once it starts. They file fast, wave a doctor's note, talk emergency. Suddenly, you're a passenger in your own life." He took a slow sip. "Rule 1. Don't sign in their room. Make them come to yours." I glanced at the study window, where Ellen's portrait hung straight again. "My room," I said. "Your witnesses," he added. "Your notary. Someone who knows their job and isn't shy about keeping the stamp in the pocket if things smell wrong. I've seen notaries refuse when a signature looks pushed. Good ones do." "Bank?" I said. "Bring a professional who can name the thing," he said. "Somebody with authority, VP, manager, won't be dazzled by, 'We're just trying to help.' People behave different when the room has rules. He watched me not write anything down and grunted approval. Don't argue in the moment. Don't preach. Ask questions. What does this authorize you to do? Why today? Why here? Make them say it plain. Rope is a tool. Sometimes you hand it to a man and he ties the knot himself. I looked out over the yard Ellen had taught into order. I'll invite a notary I trust, and a banker who remembers me from the days when contracts were handshakes. Good, he said. He stood, joints popping like old timber. Set your own clock. And, Ray, he tipped the cap back enough to meet my eyes. Love your people, but don't abandon your post. When he'd gone, I took a yellow pad back to the desk and wrote the plan big enough to read from across the room. Monday, 10 a.m., Carla, notary. Monday, 10 a.m., Jacob, bank VP. 10:05, Kevin and Megan, documents. I underlined the time twice.
Sunday morning dawned bright and clear, and I settled into my home office with a fresh cup of coffee. The aroma filled the air, offering a stark contrast to the tension I felt brewing beneath the surface. It was time for my first call, Jacob Reyes, the bank VP. "Good morning, Jacob," I said when he picked up. I wanted to discuss the details of the conservatorship procedures that Kevin and Megan inquired about last Tuesday. "Sure, Raymond. They were quite detailed in their questions," Jacob replied, a hint of surprise in his tone. "They seem to have done their homework." My pulse quickened. What exactly did they ask? They wanted to know about emergency procedures, documentation requirements, and how quickly the process can be initiated. It sounds like they're serious about this. "Thank you for the information, Jacob. I appreciate it." I hung up, feeling a mixture of anxiety and determination. They were preparing for something big, and I needed to be ready. Just then, my phone rang again. It was Kevin. "Hey, Dad, just wanted to check in on you." "How are you feeling?" "I'm doing okay, Kevin," I replied, attempting to sound casual, though I could feel the tension in my chest. "Just a bit of a headache." "Do you need us to come over? Megan and I can bring some food." "No, that's all right. But if you could bring over those documents we talked about this afternoon, that would be helpful." "What documents?" Kevin asked, his voice tinged with confusion. "The power of attorney papers," I said, maintaining my calm. "I'd like to look over them before I make any decisions." "Sure thing, Dad. We'll bring them over." After hanging up, I felt a sense of control wash over me. I had set the stage for our confrontation. I noted the time for Carla Nyan, the notary, to arrive at 10 a.m. tomorrow. I also planned to ask Jacob to come by to review the documents as well. The evening wore on, but my mind was still a flurry of activity, calculating and analyzing. I sat at my desk, writing out the timeline for the next day, ensuring every detail was carefully plotted. 10 o'clock, Carla would arrive to notarize documents. 10:15, Jacob would be bringing the necessary bank papers. I underlined these times, knowing they would be crucial. Next, I pulled out a fresh sheet and began drafting the educational trust for Sophie. I pictured her future college, graduate school, startup funds all secured and waiting for her. With every bullet point I wrote, I felt a sense of determination solidifying within me. This trust would not just protect her future, it would serve as a shield against the manipulations I had seen brewing. As I worked, I reviewed the checklist for witnesses and documentation. I wanted to ensure everything was in order, leaving no room for Kevin and Megan to maneuver. My resolve hardened with each stroke of the pen. Later that evening, the doorbell rang, pulling me from my thoughts. I opened the door to find Kevin and Megan standing there, the leather portfolio in hand. "Hey, Dad," Kevin said, forcing a smile. "We brought the paperwork you wanted to look over." I feigned a tired smile, inviting them in. Perfect timing. I've been thinking about our conversation. I led them to the living room, where I had set the mood to feel relaxed yet alert. Megan opened the portfolio, revealing the neatly organized documents they had prepared. "These are the power of attorney forms we discussed," she said, her tone light, almost too rehearsed. "We want to make this as easy as possible for you." "Easy?" I echoed, letting the word linger in the air. "You mean easy for you to take control of my affairs?" Kevin's smile faltered slightly, but he quickly regained composure. No, Dad, it's about helping you manage things better. We care about you. I rubbed my temples, feigning fatigue. I appreciate that, but I'm a bit foggy tonight. Maybe it's best to wait until tomorrow to sign. Tomorrow sounds great, Megan chimed in, a hint of relief crossing her face. We just want to ensure everything is in place. I nodded slowly, letting the pretense of confusion settle over me. Yes, let's do it tomorrow. I'll have my head clearer then. They exchanged glances, a silent communication that told me they were still committed to their plan. I could sense their eagerness to push this through quickly, but I wasn't about to let them. As they left, I felt the weight of their expectations lift. Tomorrow, I would be ready, surrounded by witnesses to protect my interests. The trap was set, and I was determined to outsmart them. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting striped shadows across my office as I prepared for the confrontation. I had spent the early hours reviewing my notes and gathering my resolve. Today was not just about signing papers, it was about reclaiming my independence. At precisely 9:45 a.m., Carla arrived, her demeanor professional and focused. "Good morning, Raymond," she greeted, her eyes scanning the room before settling on the organized documents spread before me. "Ready for some paperwork?" "Absolutely," I replied, motioning for her to take a seat. I could feel the tension in the air, a thick layer of anticipation as I prepared for Kevin and Megan's arrival. At 10 a.m., Jacob Reyes showed up, briefcase in hand. "Morning, Raymond. Ready for that portfolio review?" "Ready," I confirmed, feeling a surge of confidence. The stakes were high, and I had to remain sharp. As I introduced Carla, I could see Kevin and Megan's faces shift from casual excitement to uncertainty. They were expecting an easy signing, but today was not going to go as planned. "Thanks for coming," Kevin said, attempting to maintain his bright demeanor. "We're here to help you manage things better." "Manage?" I echoed, letting the question hang in the air. "What exactly do you mean by that?" Megan leaned forward, her expression earnest yet rehearsed. "We think it would be beneficial for us to have power of attorney to help you with your finances and medical decisions." I felt a familiar tightness rise in my chest. And why would I need that? I've been managing quite well on my own for years. "Dad, you've been feeling a bit out of sorts lately," Kevin interjected, a hint of desperation creeping into his tone. "We want to make sure you're taken care of." "Take care of me?" I raised an eyebrow, watching them squirm slightly in their seats. "Or take care of yourselves?" Just then, as if cued by the growing tension, the door opened, and I caught a glimpse of Sophie peeking around the corner, her eyes wide with concern. She was the reason for my resolve. I couldn't let them manipulate me any longer. "Let's get to the matter at hand," I said, my voice steady. "I'm aware of your plans regarding the power of attorney." "I've been doing my homework too." The color drained from Kevin's face, and Megan's carefully crafted smile faltered. "What do you mean?" Kevin stammered, his confidence slipping. "Let's just say I've been preparing for this conversation," I replied coolly, letting the words sink in. "I have documents here that outline my intentions, and I want to ensure that everything is done properly." Carla shifted in her seat, her professional demeanor intact. "I'm here to notarize any documents you wish to sign today, but I need to make sure everything is clear and above board." The sudden appearance of a witness added weight to the room, and I felt their calculated confidence begin to waver. "We're ready," I said, keeping my gaze steady on Kevin and Megan, "but let's set the record straight first." I signed the documents for the educational trust, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. This was not just a legal formality. It was my commitment to ensuring Sophie's future was secure. From now on, there will be no more financial support for you, Kevin and Megan. You have 1 year to show genuine change. Kevin's voice trembled as he muttered an apology, but it felt inadequate. Megan remained silent, her calculating eyes darting between the papers and my face, weighing her next move. The door clicked shut behind them, sealing away the tension and their plans. As I turned, Sophie appeared at the doorway, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "Grandpa, are you okay?" she asked, stepping inside. I knelt to her level, my heart swelling with love. "I'm fine, sweetheart. I just made some important decisions for your future." I opened a brochure detailing veterinary schools and potential career paths. The images of bright campuses glimmered in the light. "Can we look at these together?" Sophie's eyes sparkled with hope. "Absolutely," I replied, spreading the brochures across the table. "You have every opportunity ahead of you." "Will you always help me?" she asked, her small voice earnest. "Love remains, and so does your future," I assured her, feeling the truth of my words. As we explored the possibilities together, I knew I was fulfilling my promise to Ellen, to always take care of Sophie, no matter the cost. Betrayal stories can feel overwhelming, yet they serve as powerful catalysts for change. God reminds us that love remains, guiding us through our darkest moments. By protecting ourselves and setting boundaries, we reclaim our power and ensure a brighter future for ourselves and our loved ones. Each experience teaches us invaluable lessons about trust and loyalty. If you've faced a betrayal, we invite you to share your journey in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to hear more inspiring stories that uplift and encourage.